There's a kind of pressure that rarely gets spoken about, a quiet weight many of us carry deep inside. It isn't the pressure to win or succeed, at least not in the obvious way. It's the pressure to follow. Not because we are weak, or because we lack imagination, but because somewhere inside, we doubt that our own steps will be enough. You see someone powerful, someone noble, someone deeply respected and wise, and something inside you whispers, almost without realizing, if I walk like them, maybe I'll become like them. And so, slowly, you begin to copy. Not always in loud or obvious ways. Sometimes it's just in the tone of your voice, or the way you speak about success. Sometimes it shows in the words you choose when talking about life, or even in the quiet way you think about God. You start to wear their path like a borrowed robe. It feels heavy, full of meaning, but somehow it doesn't quite fit your shoulders. And after some time, something begins to feel off. But what if you were never meant to walk exactly like them? What if their greatness came not from copying someone else, but from staying honest with their own nature? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says something that feels simple on the surface, but the more you think about it, the more it shakes you. He says, even a wise man acts according to his nature. He doesn't say that a wise person tries to walk like others before them. He doesn't say, follow the footsteps of the ones you admire. He says, even those who have seen the truth, even they follow their own nature. That one line changes everything. Because it means that Krishna himself, the divine guide of the Gita, never copied anyone. He didn't try to become like Lord Rama, even though Rama came before him and is loved across generations. He didn't walk in the footsteps of the old sages, even though he held deep respect for them. Krishna didn't become who he was by repeating what others did. He became who he was by standing fully in his own rhythm. And maybe that's what the world actually needs from you, Jew. From the time we are young, we are told to look at role models, the legends, the saints, the pioneers. We are encouraged to learn about them, follow their habits, adopt their values. And that's not wrong. It's good to take inspiration from those who have lived with depth. But somewhere along the way, the learning turns into imitation. And that imitation turns into a mask. One that hides our own nature. One that slowly convinces us that our way isn't good enough. You can feel it. You feel it when you speak words that sound wise, but don't feel honest. You feel it when your dreams start to look like someone else's vision. You feel it when you are doing well on the outside, but something within you feels like it's fading. What's powerful is that Krishna never asked Arjuna to become someone else. He never told him to be like Aishwa. He never said, fight like Karna. He didn't even say, be like me. He simply told Arjuna, act according to your own nature. Because your nature is not a problem to fix. It's not something to be upgraded through discipline or molded into someone else's version of strength. Your nature is a sacred code, something you are meant to understand, accept, and then express in your own way. And the more you align with that, the more you stop fighting what's within you, the more peace begins to rise, even in the middle of chaos. Think about the people you truly admire. Not just the famous ones in history, but even the quiet ones in your own life, the ones who had real presence. Some were strong and bold. Others were soft and gentle. Some were loud with their voice. Others taught through silence. Some were artists. Others were warriors. But what connected all of them wasn't their similarity. It was their honesty. They trusted their own nature. And because of that, they left something behind. Not just memories, but energy. So if you've been feeling lost or confused about your path, maybe the answer isn't in trying harder to look outside. Maybe it's time to look more gently within. Because there's something powerful in a person who knows who they are. Not just what they've learned or what they believe, but what they actually feel right doing. And you can see it in the way they move through the world. Not trying to impress. Not trying to shrink. Just moving in their own rhythm. Krishna lived that completely. He didn't grow up in easy conditions. He wasn't protected from pain. He was raised away from his birth parents. He lived with danger around him for years. And eventually, he found himself standing in the middle of a war that would change everything. But through all of it, through every twist and every test, he stayed close to himself. Some days he played the flute and danced with joy. Some days he gave Arjuna truths that felt sharp but clear. Some days he laughed like a child. Other days he stood in silence, watching things unfold with deep awareness. He wasn't always predictable, but he was always real. And that's the kind of presence people never forget. Not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. So ask yourself, are you walking someone else's path because you think your way is too small? Are you doubting yourself because your pace doesn't match the world's speed? Do you trust your own nature? Or are you trying to turn it into something more acceptable? The Gita doesn't ask you to become Krishna. It doesn't ask you to become anyone else. It invites you to become the most rooted, most clear, most true version of who you already are. And yes, that takes courage. Because it's easier to hide behind someone else's wisdom. It's easier to echo their strength. But it takes real depth to say, this is how I see the world, and this is how I choose to walk. But when you finally make that choice, something shifts. You stop comparing your journey. You stop chasing other people's timelines. You stop thinking that you need to match their greatness in order to be enough. Instead, you begin to stand where you are, not perfectly, but honestly. And that is where your path begins. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs your version. It needs your insight, your voice, your rhythm. Even if it's quieter, even if it's slower, even if it's not recognized right away. So if you've been carrying someone else's ideas, someone else's way of walking, thinking they're better than your own, maybe it's time to pause. Maybe it's time to sit with yourself, not with judgment, but with gentle awareness. Ask yourself, what do I truly love? What feels real to me? What would I still care about, even if nobody clapped for it? That's where your nature is waiting. And when you finally start to live from that space, not in your thoughts alone, but in your actions, everything becomes lighter. You stop chasing. You stop proving. You stop trying to measure up to someone else's image of success. Instead, you begin to walk, slow, clear, grounded, just like Krishna did. He didn't try to copy Rama. He didn't try to repeat what came before. And he didn't ask Arjuna to do that either. He just said, be who you are. Even a wise person moves according to their own nature. And that includes you.